Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tank12. Hi, been calling me. I don't really care, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Today we're going to be reviewing the CS-59. This is the Polish Tier 9 medium tank. And before we get to this vehicle, we're going to take a look at the Polish medium tank tech tree. And we're going to be talking about some of the other vehicles because this review, well, I mean, this is already the Tier 9 vehicle, the Tier 9 tank. And we're going to be talking about the other ones, and there's probably going to be a review coming for at least the CS-53. I still have the CS-53 in my garage with the crew because it's a tank that I have enjoyed that much that I really want to make a video about. I probably made a video about it already with just gameplay, but I didn't make a review on it. So that's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to be reviewing the CS-53. I enjoyed the CS-44 as well. The Boogie, maybe not so much because it was... well, it was a bit of a weird tank. I maybe played it wrong, but the CS-44 just really is an enjoyable vehicle once you get it fully upgraded. That is basically the most important part about all of these vehicles. Once they're fully upgraded, I think they have all been enjoyable to play, but the problem was just you have to fully upgrade them, right? So yeah, fully upgrade them and then you'll actually have a much better time than playing a vehicle that's not fully upgraded. But today we're going to be talking about the CS-59, and you can see with the current loadout we have it fully upgraded. There's one gun that we have not unlocked, which is the 100mm Armata WZ-62 gun. That's a tier 9 gun. We're running the tier 10 gun, which is better in every aspect in comparison to the tier 9 gun, except for maybe rate of fire and aim time. But I much rather have the tier 10 gun with the better DPM, better pen, but we're gonna get to that all in just a second. So right here you can see my crew currently on this vehicle is a 3-skill crew, not the best, not the worst. The equipment I'm using on this vehicle, as you can see, is actually quite interesting because I have never used improved aiming, but I did use improved aiming on this tank, and I'm going to be telling you guys why in just a second. The gun rammer obviously is a clear choice, and the turbocharger. The one thing that I've noticed with the CS-59 is that it doesn't have the same mechanical features that the CS-63 has. So this CS-63 has a new gameplay mechanic, which is the ability to turbocharge your engine. And that is not something you can do on the tier 9. That just doesn't, well, it's not in the game. So this tier 9 is basically a standard medium tank, but it's a really, really cool one. And let's talk about why I think the CS-59 could be one of my favorites tier 9 medium tanks in the recent time. Like, there are a lot of tier 9 medium tanks that I really enjoyed, and this one I really, really enjoyed. I've played quite a few games in it now so far. Played it in stock, in a stock configuration. I've played it fully upgraded now, and it's a drastic difference. But let's talk about the stock configuration real fast. I'm just gonna put everything on the stock configuration before we actually move on over to the fully upgraded configuration. Now the thing is that this tank in stock is actually not the worst vehicle. It's not the worst experience in stock, at least if you have a good crew. The problem is just that the vehicle, like, it has some really weird kind of it has some really weird I don't know, how should you call them, little knickknacks that make it a bit more annoying, and that is just like the aim time and the gun dispersion like make this tank really uncomfortable at first. You have to get used to having really bad aim time for a medium tank and really bad dispersion, and that just shows that this tank, like in the stock variant, is not very enjoyable. It does get better fully upgraded, but it still lacks that cutting edge accuracy and gun handling that some other tier 9s have, certainly that I have gotten used to. And to be fair, the CS-59 just doesn't go into that kind of category, and it doesn't really fit any of those descriptions. So in stock, this tank is a bit of a weird one because I think, like, mobility wise, it isn't too different, because like the only difference is like legit 30 horsepower that you have right here, like 670, you go to 700. But the big difference is certainly the turret on the one side and the armament. So the armament and the turret really make a big difference. This tank just feels like I know in which direction it wants to go, but as soon as you play it in stock, it just feels a bit underwhelming. But as soon as you get it fully upgraded, you finally notice, that's what they want with this tank. That's how they want you to play it. And yeah, obviously it makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense that the stock variant is not as good as the fully upgraded variant. But still, I think it's nice to see that the fully upgraded variant really shows you the full potential that this tank has. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the fully upgraded variant. So this review is on the fully upgraded CS-59. The stock variant of the CS-59 is not too bad, but I'm not going to be reviewing it. I can tell you guys that the engine is really not like the biggest step up. It's just 30 kilometers or 30 horsepower more, and you can save those 50,000 research points first to get the turret and the gun, because the turret and the gun you can fit without using the upgraded tracks. But I highly advise getting the upgraded tracks later down the road, because it does make a bit of a difference, having 45 degrees per second traverse speed versus, actually it's just 42. So yeah, it's not even that big of a deal. But still, get those things fully upgraded, and then you can see in like the worst case where you just want to get to the CS-63, you can actually play this tank by just getting the upgraded turret, the 105mm gun, and that's actually it. You don't need anything else, to be fair. You don't need the upgraded radio. Tier 9 radio will work, and the engine and the tracks aren't going to be making that much of a difference. So, as equipment, I highly advise to use the turbocharger to get the additional 5 kilometers per hour top speed. This tank already has very, very good mobility with the specific specific horsepower to weight ratio of 19.59. It really works very well. But let's start from the beginning. Let's take a look at the firepower. So the 100, I think it's is it a 100mm gun? It's a 105mm gun, excuse me. The 105mm gun on this vehicle is really, really nice. You have 390 alpha, which is quite impressive. It's on tier 9 standard, I would say. For a medium tank, certainly a hard-hitting 390. You have 252mm of penetration. That's really, really good, in my opinion. And the shell velocity is also not too bad, 1,050 meters per second. Your premium shells are APCR shells, and they have a shell velocity of 1,360. That's not the best, but it's not the worst either. And your rate of fire is actually fairly decent, 8.08 rounds per minute. So that's a reload time of 7.43. I did get that down a little bit with the rammer. So for me, it was quite important to have a good rate of fire, because I'm going to be, in those fights, flanking around. I want to do the max amount of damage that I can in a very short amount of time. So the gun traverse, the turret traverse is really, really good. Even for a medium tank, 50.13 degrees per second, that's really, really good. 9 degrees of gun depression, that's what this tank really does well. And that's something that you'll really like when you're playing this tank. 9 degrees is also for the stock gun and the stock turret, I think, as well. 20 degrees of gun elevation is not too bad either. And yeah, it's just something, if you think about it, it's like an Eastern tank, like an Eastern European vehicle, and you not think that they have like good gun depression. So it's a nice pace, or nice change of pace. And the aim time, obviously 2.34 seconds aim time to get a fully aimed in reticle is not very good for a medium tank, at least in my opinion. It can be quite a lot faster. The problem is also that the dispersion is a bit of a problem. So the dispersion was actually with the upgraded 105mm gun, I think it's on stock 0.38. That's really, really bad, but you can get it down to 0.34 with the crew, with equipment. And that's what I did. And it's a bit weird, because if you don't have the right equipment, this tank will just take a really long time to aim in, and then it's inaccurate. So that's like the worst combination. So the gun handling is a bit of an issue, but you can work with it. It's just sometimes you have some really weird, awkward scenarios where you aim in fully and you don't hit the target. It's not even long range, but you can work with it if you get the right equipment, if you can get the right setup, and then you can, you know, have fun with this vehicle. Now, the average damage per minute is 3,151. That's pretty damn good for a medium tank at tier 9. That's tier 10 level. So you can do quite a lot of damage with this vehicle. The issue is just right here, right? The aim time, dispersion, those are the things that can let you down in certain scenarios, but we'll get to that in the gameplay later on because it will really show you just what I mean, what I'm talking about. So the hit points are 1,800, which is actually quite a lot for a medium tank, so they've been quite generous for a tier 9 medium. 110 millimeters of frontal hull armor, which is quite interesting. The angling isn't too bad either. It's like on par. I wouldn't say it's on par with the T-54, but it's close to it. And yeah, survivability wise, like 45 on the rear, 45 on the side, 40 on the rear, 130 on the turret is a bit of an issue though. The turret on this vehicle is really weak. 130 millimeters is not a lot, especially at tier 9, tier 10. Everyone is going to be able to go right for your turret. That's something that they have, you know, kept with the CS-59 because the CS-53 is in a very similar kind of situation. Very bad turret armor. The hull armor isn't too bad. The turret armor, though, is a bit of a letdown. 55 on the side, 40 at the rear. So that's something you have to keep in mind. It looks like a T-54 turret with a lot of armor if we just compare it. The T-54 obviously has 240 millimeters of armor on the turret, and this thing has 130. So you're lacking 19 millimeters. No, actually, you're actually lacking 110 millimeters of armor on this vehicle. And that's just something you'll have to get used to. Do not try to to go hull down with this. Well, you can go hull down, but your turret is not going to be very strong. So that's a major downside to this tank. Now the mobility, on the other hand, it just shows you this tank is really mobile. It has great traverse speed of 52.93 degrees per second. So holy shit, this tank is going to be able to move around fast and, you know, turn around really quickly. And it has 55 kilometers top speed. That's with the turbocharger, keep that in mind. And 21 kilometers per hour top speed going backwards. The specific power to weight ratio is really good with 19.59. With the turbocharger, it's added a 1.73 increase in there. So like this tank is rather light, 39 tons, and it's really fast. It's fast, nimble, it has a deadly gun. It just lacks a bit of the survivability on the turret, and it lacks a bit of the great gun handling. Otherwise, this tank is really, really good. You can improve it with the concealment. You can get this tank hidden quite well if you have the right crew skills. And you can see that this tank can be quite stealthy. And spotting is also not too bad. I think the standard view range on this vehicle is about 390 meters. So this tank is like a great all-rounder. This is a tank that kind of rivals the T-54, and it really fits my kind of gameplay. If you want to be close to mid-ranges, like you want to be in close combat to medium-range combat, this tank really works well. It's going to do a lot of damage. The thing is just that the armor is a bit of a letdown. The gun sometimes behaves a bit awkwardly, so you're going to have some engagements where your gun is not going to be working perfectly. But still, I think this tank does fairly well. It does really, really well at tier 9 and even at tier 10. And I've enjoyed playing this vehicle every single time when I took it out on the battlefield. And I think we're going to go over to the gameplay. We're going to try it out. We're going to talk about the games, and I'm going to give you guys a bit of an introduction what everything is like in practice, and then we're going to have a final verdict at the end. So bear with me. We're going to jump over to the gameplay. Okay, so in this review, we're only going to be taking a look at one gameplay because, let's be honest, some of my reviews are a bit too long. This tank, as I mentioned previously already, has several strong suits. Its rate of fire is pretty damn good. It has really good DPM, very good pen. The gun handling is a bit weird, but you can definitely work with it. The armor is basically on the turret non-existent. For a tier 9 vehicle having 130 millimeters of turret armor at the front, that's basically nothing. It's on the same level as on maybe the Type 61, the Japanese tier 9 medium tank. So you cannot rely on the turret at all. You have to be really careful when you're playing this vehicle. You want to keep it as low profile as possible, but you have 9 degrees of gun depression. With the mobility, as you can see right here, we make our way down here to the south. Now we're going to be playing this quite aggressively, just so you know. There are going to be several things I'm going to be doing that maybe are not the best idea with this tank. But you can see right here that I do bait the Carnarvon. We do manage to deal a bit of damage, 365 to his cupola on top. And that must have hurt this Carnarvon. I'm just waiting for him to make a mistake, drive forward and fire, and we hit him for another 373. That rate of fire with this Alpha is really, really nice. We do catch around from the Carnarvon, but you know, I'm gonna take that trade for 412. He's almost dead, and I'm still able to hold this position. I'm a bit, let's say, I'm a bit uneasy about the current situation that we are finding ourselves in at the moment. There are 4 enemy tanks right in front of me, and a couple of support allies behind me. Now the thing is, how can I do damage while they are right here? They know that, or I expect them to know that my turret armor is really weak. But we managed to find a shot on the T10, because the T10, the armor at the front, isn't as strong, and especially if you have that shot on that side, you're going to be able to penetrate. We do spot the Stura Emil, and that is a tank destroyer in the back, and there's also a T-54 lightweight. And you can just see we're going to town with these guys with the rate of fire that we have on this vehicle. Now, what you do not want to, what you do not want to happen in this scenario is you do not want to get trapped and be exposed right here like I am right now, because I'm a bit greedy, but I really want to secure the kill on the T-54 lightweight because he's a dangerous tank. Now, unfortunately for me, that is a bit of a problem right here. The Batchat 25T AP in the back has decided to show his ugly face. The thing is that Batchat 25T is able to hide himself in the bushes in the back, but we've already managed to do 3,125 damage. So yeah, you can see very impressive numbers right there. We did bounce the T10 previously. I think he hit my my gun mantlet. That was the only place that he couldn't pen, and he shot my gun mantlet by mistake. And right here, this is a thing that you have to get used to when you're playing this tank. Its armor is not very good, and you do have 1,800 HP, which is quite a lot. But your armor is not going to be able to hold up. You're not going to be able to survive anything. So luckily for me, this guy right here, the Carnarvon, Vladimir, just saved my life. He took 2 shells from the Batchat 25T AP right there, and he managed to save us that final shell. So yeah, team play sometimes is still alive in the game, and that's pretty damn cool to see. So yeah, the armor on this vehicle is just not reliable, and you should never rely on armor if you're playing a medium tank, except for certain specific medium tanks, maybe the E50M and the Object 430U. But most other medium tanks, they do not have enough armor to withstand any real powerful gun. So you just have to work with that. But you can see the mobility on this tank, the gun handling. I mean, this tank is great. I really enjoy this tank. It's great. It does a lot of damage. It has great DPM. It's fast. You can, flank guys. You have a bit of an awkward gun handling at first, but you can work with it. And it's pretty good at the end, so it's good enough. I mean, you have great pen. Your armor is not the best. Unfortunately, right here, we're unable to actually track the Yak Tiger, else we would have been able to finish him. I'm on 9 HP, and the Yak Tiger just needs to sneeze on us, and he will actually kill us. Unfortunately for us, it's going to be a bit of a hard thing to do right now to kill the Yak Tiger, because he's going to be just facing us. And it looks like our team is currently capping. And I'm not willing to take the shot from the Jagdtiger because I want him to make a mistake, to maybe come towards me to be able to finish him off. So I'm waiting here, right here on the corner. And I'm just trying to spot him because I know the time is about to run out. And I do try to bait him into shooting me. He does. He bounces off our tank. Unfortunately, the game finishes right there and then. Yeah, so that angle, obviously, he was not going to be able to pen. If I moved a bit further forward, he would have been able to pen me, but just because I was able to move backwards, he did glance right off our upper glaciers. So, pretty nice game. 4,472 damage dealt, 904 damage assisted by tracking and by spotting those vehicles. And I actually did bounce 1,570 damage. That is something you will not see a lot on this tank. The armor on the hull is actually not too bad. I think it's 110 millimeters thick. And if you think about that, 110 millimeters for a medium tank at tier 9, that's not too bad. That's almost on par with the T-54. Now the turret, on the other hand, is a complete different story. If you ever have to fight this tank, the turret is a very big weak spot. If you can just shoot the turret, you're going to be able to go through. Just avoid the big gun mantlet. I know it's quite large, but if you just fire anywhere on this turret, like especially like the upper part right here, which is like really flat on top, you're going to be able to go through if you have like a decent caliber. If you're maybe a tier 8, or even like if you're a tier 9 or tier 10, you're not going to have a problem with this tank. The problem is the very, very good rate of fire that this vehicle does possess. So let's take a short amount of time, and let's talk about the final verdict that I have on this vehicle. Is it worth grinding? Should you really go for the CS-59? Should you go for the CS-63? Should you go for the Polish medium tank line? And I think my stance so far, I haven't played the tier 10 yet, but I've played the tier 9, I've played the tier 8, the 7, and the 6. And they are all great in their own kind of way. The tier 9 is by far my favorite tank so far out of the medium tanks. So previously it was the tier 8 with the tier 7 very close to one another, but all of them are great. Like, it's not like one of them is much better than the other, but I think the CS-59 just takes the cake because this tank combines so many good things. And I mean, you can work with the trade-offs. You can work with the lack of armor that you have on this vehicle. And that makes it a really good, versatile medium tank if you like medium tanks that have a big damage output, that are mobile and fast, that have decent gun handling. I'm not going to call it super gun handling, but decent gun handling, and that don't really have a lot of armor, but they look like they have armor. This tank looks like it has armor on the turret, you know? It's similar to the T-54, and you would just think that this thing actually has armor because of, you know, because of its looks, and because it's similar to other Soviet medium tanks, but it's not the case. This tank does not have any armor. So hopefully you guys did like this review. As always, comment, like, and subscribe. Tell me what you guys think about the CS-59. Have you played it? Are you going to be trying it out? It's a great tank. Really give it a shot. Give the medium tank line of the Polish techtree a shot. It's really great so far, and I'm looking forward to the tier 10 variant. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Till then, have a good one.